The Kansas City Chiefs have made a couple of signings to futures reserves deals, and we will be talking about those today. So there will be another video dropping later tonight about the second signing. But the first signing that we have to talk about today is the Chiefs have signed Shaun Bradley, a linebacker, to a futures reserves deal. This paragraph here comes to us from Arrowhead Pride. Bradley, 27, first joined the league as a sixth-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2020 NFL Draft, checking in at 6'1", 240 pounds. The former Temple linebacker appeared in 45 games for the Eagles, including one start through 2022. Playing primarily on special teams. He spent the 2023 season on the Eagles' reserved injures list with a torn Achilles tendon. During 2024, he spent some time on the Houston Texans practice squad. So I wanted to bring up the measurables on Shaun Bradley, and I want to compare them with Nick Bolton just so we have a little bit of insight as to the type of athlete with whom we are dealing. Shaun Bradley is 6 foot and 5/8 inches, basically 6'1", compared to Nick Bolton's 5'11" and 1/8, basically 5'11" flat. 235 pounds compared to Nick Bolton's 237, essentially the same weight. 31 3/4 inch arms compared to Bolton's 31 7/8, comparable there. 9.5 inch hands compared to 10 3/8 for Nick Bolton. A 4.51 40-yard dash. That's a pretty good time for a middle linebacker, which he did play for the Eagles when he was in their linebacking core, compared to a 4.60 for Nick Bolton. However, this is where some things get interesting. A 1.54 10-yard split. 10-yard split, very important for a linebacker. That is going forward into the running game, compared to the 1.71 from Nick Bolton. 2.64 20-yard split. Nick Bolton had a 2.62. He had a 4.24 20-yard short shuttle. So here's sort of the thing with the 20-yard short shuttle and the three-cone drill. These are very big numbers to football guys. These are very big numbers for scouts. These are things, especially at linebacker, running back, wide receiver, safety, these positions that these players, these scouts really look for in players. He had a 4.24 20-yard short shuttle compared to a 4.50 from Nick Bolton. That is change of direction. A 7.07 three-cone drill compared to Nick Bolton's 7.40. This is something that is very valuable when we're looking at the passing game. And we will get to that in a little bit. 32.5 inch vertical leap, 32 for Nick Bolton, virtually the same thing. 10 foot 1 inch broad jump for Shaun Bradley, 9'7" for Nick Bolton, fairly close. 14 reps on the bench press compared to 24 reps for Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is a tank of a linebacker, but when you start thinking about the battlefield, tanks don't have the best mobility. Here is what he has done in the NFL. There in 2021 is the one start referenced by Arrowhead Pride. In 2020, his rookie season, he played 76 defensive snaps. He had 15 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. In 2021, where he had that start, he played 55 snaps of defense, so less defense than in his rookie season, but ended up with 23 tackles. And then in 2022, he played 0 snaps of defense, still had 7 tackles. How do you do that? Well, you're playing 314 special teams reps. That is what we're really looking at here with Shaun Bradley. His rookie season, 284 special team snaps. His second season in the NFL, 280 special team snaps. And in 2022, the last season, in which he had playing time, 314 special teams snaps. So, what are we talking about here, just sort of in general, with Shaun Bradley as a player? As mentioned earlier, he missed all of 2023 with a torn Achilles. This season, he spent October 2nd through November 5th on the Texans practice squad. So, over the last 2 seasons, no live-action football and very little on-the-field stuff at all, besides a month and 3 days spent with the Texans practice squad. I believe that is all the experience that he has over the past 2 seasons. I did not find anything else. Perhaps my sources are faulty, but I don't think that's the case. What you're looking at here is likely a special teams ace. The special teams reps indicate that Shaun Bradley is most likely going to be trying to replace Jack Cochran, who is scheduled to be a free agent at the end of this season, but he is a restricted free agent at the end of the season. We have seen a little bit of movement with the Kansas City Chiefs and the linebacking core with different free agents and things the past few weeks, etc. By the way, Marlon Tuipulotu is also on IR right now. Just worth mentioning, I think, because he has been on the active roster quite a bit this season. So just keep that in mind. There's going to be someone called up from the practice squad. I believe Shaun Bradley is just on a futures contract, which means that he is not eligible to be called up this season. He is not actually on the practice squad. He is on a futures deal, meaning that the next season is for which he is being signed, not this year. Now, looking at the measurables, he has a lot of the measurables that you would want to see in a standard down linebacker. He's got good speed. He's got good size. He's a good weight. He never found a home in the Eagles' rotation. We just looked at those numbers, the reps that he got. But sometimes I think that when you're talking about positions that are not completely speed-based, wide receiver, running back, cornerback, things like that, players can get better with age. I think it's possible that Shaun Bradley is being brought in not just to be a special teams ace. I think that it's possible that Shaun Bradley is being signed to the Kansas City Chiefs and he's going to have an opportunity to play himself into the rotation here in Kansas City should he earn that. I think he will be granted the opportunity and ability to earn that. We have seen that Jack Cochran is a free agent at the end of the season. Nick Bolton is a free agent at the end of the season. And there's a couple other things that I'm going to talk about in a moment. Now, looking at him physically, he's well built for a linebacker. He is thick-bodied. He has sturdy legs. He is not skinny. He is not skinny-armed, right? Sometimes you see these guys that have real strange proportions. Who's the guy they just signed and then released? I can't remember his name right now. A little bit he was that way. He had long arms. They didn't look like a linebacker's arms. He looked, if you weren't looking directly at him, as if he were possibly a safety. That's not Shaun Bradley. Shaun Bradley is a linebacker through and through. That said, Shaun Bradley's very good in coverage. Never made his way really onto the field on Sundays, but he is very good in coverage. Listen, I don't think that this is a Nick Bolton replacement by any means. But how many times over the last 4 years have we found ourselves on a Sunday afternoon wondering just what this defense would look like if the middle linebacker were a little bit less of a liability in coverage? I don't think it's an accident that a lot of the linebackers they have signed since the acquisition of Nick Bolton have been of a more athletic variety. Part of that is they were trying to complement Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, for example. They were trying to complement Nick Bolton in this linebacking core. You have one guy that's not great in coverage. You have a couple that are. But there have been very few attempts at getting a hefty sort of foot in the mud downhill linebacker since Nick Bolton. I think part of that is the fact that while Nick Bolton has been very good for the Kansas City Chiefs, has been defense altering for the Kansas City Chiefs. Remember what this defense looked like before Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton does come with certain limitations. Nick Bolton is not very good in coverage, despite the fact that somehow he comes up with game-saving interceptions time and time again. It is the wildest thing about Nick Bolton's career is how often he has interceptions when you would imagine there are certain offensive tackles who could get open if Nick Bolton were covering them. but that's just being a gamer. That's being a big playmaker, right? But I think that part of the philosophy with linebackers moving forward. Now, Leo Chenal is a little bit of a liability in pass coverage, but Leo Chenal is not a liability in pass coverage because he does not have the physical tools. It seems to me that Leo Chenal sometimes gets too aggressive versus the run and sometimes gets too aggressive in diagnosing a route. So I don't think that this is a matter of Nick Bolton just being a substandard athlete in certain ways. The way that Nick Bolton is very much a forward-facing athlete. He's not good dropping back, things like that. Shaun Bradley is good dropping back. So here's the thing. If the Achilles did not take his speed or change of direction, and that's a very big if, right, he could compete for playing time. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but he tore his Achilles in 2023, and he missed that season. This season, he has been mostly absent. We saw that 1 month with a practice squad. The Achilles, we saw this, what season was that, when so many players in the NFL were tearing their Achilles? There was the strike. It was the strike season when all of these players ended up tearing their Achilles. Basically, it's a 2-year injury. You come back the next season, you can play the next season, but you're just not the athlete that you were. And it's 2 years after that you end up getting most of the mobility back, things like that. And you hear athletes talk about it all the time. But so this would be the second year, next year, after having the injury. Bottom line here, if you ask me, it's possible that this is a training camp body. That's possible. It's probable that he is being brought in order to hopefully be a special teams ace for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think that there is a real possibility that what we are seeing with Shaun Bradley is another flyer like Cam Jones et al. That the Kansas City Chiefs have brought in at the linebacker position. The linebacker position is devalued in the NFL. You can find guys who can play on Sundays as UDFAs, as free agents, all of these different ways you can find them. Maybe they won't be game changers, but how many linebackers have the Chiefs had over the past 4 or so seasons that were undrafted or unwanted by other teams? They come to Kansas City, they get meaningful reps because of an injury or something like that, and the Chiefs' defense doesn't particularly miss a beat. That is something that you have to have in today's NFL. You don't want to be paying all sorts of money to your linebackers because the position has been devalued. You certainly don't want to be paying all sorts of money to backup linebackers. These guys kind of have to be UDFA. They have to be on veteran minimum deals. They have to be guys that are core special teamers. There's not a whole lot of money in the salary cap pie for backup linebackers in the NFL. The Chiefs have kept quite a few, however, on their roster during the past few years because they do use them excessively on the special teams. Now, the last thing that I have to talk about here. I talked about Cam Jones in the days after the Broncos game, and I said that the performance he put up in that game, I don't know if he's really the developmental piece that the Kansas City Chiefs were looking for to be maybe the 4th linebacker next season. Next year, you have Drue Tranquill, you have Leo Chenal. You'll have to either re-sign Nick Bolton or replace Nick Bolton for a starter, and Jack Cochran, who is kind of the 4th guy this year, is injured right now. He is a free agent. He is a restricted rights free agent. He and Nick Bolton might be gone next year, so you're going to need that 4th guy. I don't think Cam Jones put up the performance that you were hoping for in order to say that you have that 4th guy in place. This might be a move confirming that was true, that Cam Jones did not have a great performance. Cam Jones has not had a particularly outstanding season this year, and maybe they are trying to find replacements for the Cam Jones position on the roster. That is what I have for this video. Again, I will be back later tonight with a video for the other player that the Kansas City Chiefs signed. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.